Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I'm Tiana here once again and I'm back for some more of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my Let's Play of Kirby's Dream Land 2 for the Game Boy. So last time we actually did tackle through those previous two worlds, which are Grassland and the Big Forest. And also we've managed to obtain those two rainbow drops. And today for this episode is the fact that we're going to be moving on into the third world in this game by the forms of Ripple Field, which appears to be a water world, seems like it. Which even then though, that we actually come across into the last animal friend that we're able to actually have the ability to actually play with. But even then though, that wasn't until the second level on the other hand, because, well, we got ourselves the first level to deal with here. So even then, as far as the actual, Ripple Fields looks like, it almost feels exactly like how it does it in the forms of the original Kirby's Dream Land, how the fact that in the first Dream Land, game, actually retains Float Islands, which even then though, Float Islands is basically exactly the same world as it does it for Ripple Field, except, well, this time you have, copy abilities first off, in addition to these animal friend companions there too. So, yeah, I apologize if this little glaring screen as you can see right there. This is probably due to the fact that we're going to be using our, our iPhone to able to actually just to record the actual Game Boy games. Although I would love to able to do it on the emulator on the Nintendo Wii, but normally I would potentially trying to do that, but it might be a little bit complicated for me. But the only way you can do it though is in forms of the homebrew channel, as far as I've heard. But anyway though, as far as the rainbow drop in this world, as far as level 3, or in this case world 3, as far as this was concerned, it wasn't until level 3 that we would able to come across into a rainbow drop. So even then, let's just go ahead and just, oh, you gotta be kidding me. Oh yeah, much like how it does it in, Kirby's Adventures, that you cannot able to actually swallow the power-up, or in this case a copy ability, once you're in underwater, until you get yourselves the final animal buddy, or in this case an animal friend, with you. So even then though, that for the most part I was gonna have to swim through level 1 right here, in the forms of, Ripple Field. In fact, this is where before when Kirby's Dream Land 3 exists, that one of the second worlds in that game, it has the exact same world's name as the forms of this game's third world's name. Which even then though, that again, when we get into Kirby's Dream Land 3, Ripple Fields will be actually on the second world, as far as the actual name itself, in, Kirby's Dream Land 3. So, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, that Ripple Fields is exactly as you probably expected. It's very much like how it does in Float Islands from Kirby's Dream Land 1. Slash, I would say Orange Ocean from Kirby's Adventure slightly. But except, we're going back to black and white color. But even that is as far as I can say. And this will be the final world until it usually contains like 3 levels during each world at this point. Because when we get to World 4 and onwards, it actually expands on these, level lengths, as far as I'm concerned, because the first 3 worlds throughout this game, usually only has, like, 3 levels each. Oh god, I'm gonna be dead, yep, I'm gonna be dead. If we go in here, we actually come across into a next mini-fight by the forms of this little jellyfish mini-boss. And basically what we have to do is basically we need to suck up the, oh, you gotta be kidding me, I've lost Ko the Owl. Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. Maybe next time around, though. But I digress. Luckily, though, you don't have to worry about dying by the forms of you actually ride onto the animal friends, because you can still manage to survive, unless if you're able to actually be very cautious and be careful with it. So, anyways, for this particular music theme of the forms of the Ripple Field, that heavily borrows from Float Islands from the first Kirby's Dream Land game. So, because I can definitely heard that familiar tune to it though. Anyway, so we got ourselves the Spark ability, and we got ourselves the final animal friend that we actually got managed to finally take control of. This is actually known as Kine the Fish, which even then though, that what he does is that very much like how it does it in Super Mario Bros. 3 of the forms of the frog suit. Because I say that because normally that kind of fish, that's what he's trying to do is the fact that his gimmick, or in this case his particular addition to his moveset is the forms of he can actually swim easier. So even then though, if you're having a hard time just trying to able to actually take control of yourself while swimming, luckily for you, then you would able to actually use Kind to able to actually bypass through these particular hazards, including you can actually just manage to swim better. Which, unfortunately though, for Kind of fish though, he won't do very well on land, as you can see on here. Because of how the fact that it might be a little bit more situational in the forms of how the fact that when you do like main platforming, it might be really difficult for him to be able to do platforming on, because you might as well have ended up going to death situations, especially with bottomless pits everywhere, and also judged by the fact that, well, he's pretty much, you know, completely, well, handy in the forms of, you know, underwater. So yeah, that's what fishes normally do. So, because yeah, I say that kind of fish, rather, sorry for a little bit of a tangent there, it looks kind of like similar to the ones in Super Mario Bros. 3 Frog Suit, that in Frog Suit that is actually really good for actually doing some swimming tactics. However, on the other hand, those that Frog Suit cannot handle with draining platforming and also in the air, because obviously they have the fact that, well, that's what it normally does. So anyways, now we've accomplished level 2, and now we're going to be heading to level 3, and this is where the rainbow drop is going to comes into play. But before we jump into that, the rainbow drop will require you to actually not only take Kind with you, but also we need to obtain this stone copy ability, because if you manage to obtain that, then chances are you're going to be able to actually grab yourselves the 3rd rainbow drop. So, that makes it pretty obvious to see how this will turn out, but even then though, we'll just have to like, be very careful right there, especially if we don't want to lose too much health from Kind of fish as a result. There we go, now we got ourselves a stone copy ability, and let's go ahead and exit out. Luckily though, you don't have to like, you know, complete the level or anything. You can just simply just head back to the world map, as I mentioned earlier. Much like how it does it in the rainbow drops themselves, you can essentially try to able to actually keep it that way with you. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. So here we go, folks, on to level 3, and this is where you're able to find yourselves the rainbow drop, as I mentioned earlier. But even then though, we need to use Kind and the stone copy ability until you're able to obtain it. So yeah, that's all I can really tell for this point. I really do like the Kind's theme, by the way. It's so dang catchy, and plus it's really cute too. But I digress. Some people usually do not really care about playing as Kind as much compared to how he does it in Rick or Ko, the owl. But honestly, I think Kind is actually really useful to use, especially if you're having trouble with swimming underwater segments like this. Then by all means, you can able to do that. Oh yeah, I should probably mention about the combination of Kind and the stone copy ability at the same time. What they did right there is they forms of how the fact that they can be acted out very similar to the Thwomps based off from Super Mario Bros. 3, that he managed to able to actually just to turn into a stone and then just stomps everything. So that's all it normally does. If you go over here, this is where you find yourselves a little bit of a hidden entrance right through this little you know, jet streams here. And we actually ended up in this hidden room. Now you're probably thinking now how on earth do we able to find the rainbow drop? Well, if you enter here, normally you can able to find that with your light bulb spark ability, but the easiest method is to simply we need to actually guess of where that is, and boom, we actually got ourselves the 3rd rainbow drop. So naturally we've got about 3 of them now. So even then though, that naturally, in the majority of the game, as far as getting those rainbow drops are concerned, there are a grand total of 7 of them. So even then, not to be confused as like the ones in collecting all the Star Art pieces in the forms of Kirby's Adventure, the you know, for the NES, and especially the 7 Chaos Emeralds until like, you know, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, 7 Time Stones from Sonic CD, and also 7 Chaos Emeralds from Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. So many 7 collectibles throughout, at least as far as the video game logic goes. But until when it gets to the point until, well, Kirby's Dream Land 3, and especially with Kirby 64, we're eventually going to be coming across into a whole bunch of collectibles, which even then, we'll get to that point. I get the feeling I might as well... Oh, shoot. Man, I really hate these frog-type enemies. They're so more harder to avoid. Even then, though, that some levels, again... Ah, dang it. Oh, there goes my first death of the actual playthrough. I really do apologize for that, folks, but again, I did really try, but even then... because of that, though, some levels do have their moments, though, like the ending part of level 3 in, Ripple Field, which is kind of annoying to deal with in regular Kirby, because you can't, you know that Kirby wasn't supposed to able to actually swallow things underwater? Well, until Kirby 64 anyway, spoiler alert. Naturally, he only just, blows bubbles right in front of the enemies, which even then, though, is kind of annoying to deal with here, because you can't able to actually directly kill those tiny-ass frogs. Which even then, though, it does remind me of almost related to, Alternate Stage 4 from the forms of Castlevania Rondo of Blood, when you actually trying to complete that level as Richter. But even then, though, that's as far as I may as well get myself my comparison between, you know, both of those games, obviously, though, so... Anyway, so it's time to go and deal with the next boss in this game, so I wonder how this will turn out to be. Okay, I managed to do a quick edit right there, because, I've soon to realize is that how the fact that, as you can see, my life count is all the way up to 12 this time instead of, 13, because I've accidentally, also died on this particular boss, and by the forms of it, though, is the fact that I found this boss to be really hard, with the forms of just regular Kirby himself, because, obviously, the only way you can deal with this boss easier is the forms of, well, just taking kind with you, because as a result, it just makes this fight a lot easier, because as you can see, you can actually suck up, some of these enemies when you're actually underwater, so, yeah, that makes it a little bit more, cool stuff in mind, but even then, though, that, yeah. So this boss's name is the forms of Sweet Stuff. It's a weird name, Sweet Stuff. More accurately, not to be confused as the actual sweets themselves. But basically, this particular boss is very simple. If you expecting if you're actually able to actually take kind with you, then basically you have to reflect the projectile right back at him. However, though, if you're actually going to be fighting against with Sweet Stuff, with just Kirby all by himself, naturally all you have to do is just basically you have to blow back the these little star-based enemies until you're able to actually deal damage on this guy. So yeah, that's all you really can do for this boss. And I'm recently gonna go back in here just because of this bonus challenge. Or in this case, a bonus chance anyway. I think this is predictably by far one of the hardest bonus chances in this game because, first off, this screen is constantly scrolling for a moment. And plus, you can't be bothered to actually mess up at least at one few points notice, because if you mess up at least once or twice, you're probably not going to get the 100% completion going. Or from this little alteration, extra 1-ups. So, naturally, I've managed to able to actually completely successfy that, so... And I don't know if you noticed for this, people, but how the fact that I do apologize if my angle of this recording session is going a little bit awkward, but anyway. So now we've done with World 3, and now we move on to World 4, known as Iceberg. That's why it's named, Iceberg. Which is basically a snowy-themed world. Seems like it. So even then though, that, yeah, let's get started. And as you can see, that most of the levels is now expand upon, a lot of things, because you remember how the fact that in the previous 3 worlds, that normally they've got 3 levels each, excluding the boss battle as well. Iceberg only contains 4 levels, so even then though, that, well, excluding of the boss battle as well, so don't forget about that. I believe the rainbow drop in this world is that I think is going to be located in level 4. But that'll be for later. But for now, let's go ahead and just enter this little alcove door over here. Because, if we need to use the, can you stop slipping around? Of course, as you expected from any other, 2D platforming games at this point, this level, or in this case, in this world, rather, introduces slippery ice physics, which even then, though, that might actually cause you to lose your footing, and as a result, though, you're gonna have some, plenty of controlling precise moments here and there, so yeah, I digress. So now we've got Rick the hamster with me, once again. So even then, though, I think it makes him a little bit more easier to deal with in this level, because, or in this case, in this world anyway, because he can able to actually stand onto the. Oh shoot! Oh no! I've lost Rick. Stupid Omochao robots. I don't know why I say Omochao robots, because that was when Omochao exist in Sonic Adventure 2. But these particular enemies with this little helicopter on their head, what these enemies are, they do remind me of Omochao for some reason. But naturally that can be acted out as like the explosion stuff like that. Okay, so here we have ourselves the next mini-fight. This is the forms of Rocky. I believe this enemy is originated from the Adventures of Lolo, from the forms of the NES game. In fact, well, I don't know about you, but even then, once I've managed to go myself the Adventures of Lolo 1 and 2 by the forms in my Wii Virtual Console version. But unfortunately, though, the third installment never saw the light of day on the Virtual Console, though, for some reason. Oh, I don't know, I might be wrong about that, but I'd have to keep on researching on that. So even then, I might be curious to see how the fact that what the third game is actually plays out. Oh, you gotta be kidding me, I've got one life left. This is getting underwhelming. And as a result, though, shoot. Yeah, as a result, though, folks, is that the game starts to get really, really dang difficult later on, as you expected from video games to be like this. So, again, do apologize for this little, rubbish performance I've just done there. But what I'm normally trying to do here is the fact that I can able to obtain the rock Kirby ability and able to actually roll down from hill to hill or slant to slant. So that makes it pretty obvious. Okay, let's avoid that crack Gordo right there. Sorry. So, there's quite a few things I want to mention about this before I'm able to actually explore for this particular Iceberg world. First off, you know how the fact that Mario and Sonic already mentioned about this and during the likes of the My Little Pony Harmony Quest Let's Play back in during a couple of days ago. You know how the fact that we were so close to able to obtain Xenoblade Chronicles 3D on the new 3DS? Well, it turns out today was actually forms of the, the 18th of February. That means is that I'm actually discuss upon things. First off, I've now finally got the Xenoblade Chronicles 3D for the new Nintendo 3DS, and before I've played it, it might be pretty alright actually. But even then, though, I need to get a lot of practice of how this new RPG combat style looks like. Even though sure is a little bit more different compared to how it does in Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy or Paper Mario or Super Mario RPG and all that stuff, because of the usage of the Monado, Monado arts, of how the fact that that's what the actual main weapon actually takes place into. But even then though, that the reason why I managed to get myself the new Nintendo 3DS version of Xenoblade Chronicles for the 3DS, because of how the fact that I can play that game on the go, rather than just actually turn off the game continuously on the Wii version, because sure, there was actually the Wii version in this also, but normally speaking of how the fact that, well, I can just simply complete the game from, when I was traveling on PlayStation, which I think is actually really good by me. So, anyway, there's actually another thing I wanted pointing out for this point. Originally, I was originally decided to go ahead and get myself a new PSP game, which I did recently found out in during the likes of yesterday when I've been to CEX not too long ago. Now the forms of Dragon Ball Z Tenkaichi Tag Team, which appears to be a portable version of Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3, and also Tenkaichi 2, because of how the fact that, well, specifically Tenkaichi 3 most likely, because of the improvement battle mechanics and all that stuff. But even then, no, let's go say that much for right about now, that I have no luck trying to able to actually obtain that, because well, I was really excited to actually get the Tenkaichi Tag Team, but long story short for this point, one of them is actually held off, and as a result, we have no luck finding the UMD somewhere. Well, it does contain a box and everything, but unfortunately though for me, I haven't got my UMD of the game anywhere, so as a result, I ended up just managed to able to save up on something, mainly in the next couple of days time, that not only Kirby Star Allies is about to be not too long until upon its releasing, but also judging by the fact that Detective Pikachu will be on its way as well. So, naturally, that's how it usually goes. So here we go, folks, on to level 3, and it looks like we don't need to actually worry about this for now until level 4, because level 4, as I mentioned earlier, one of the rainbow drops was actually on that level. So, but of course we need to actually use Kind and Fire, but out of all the rainbow drops we're going to be able to come across into, the 4th rainbow drop in this particular game itself will probably be one of the hardest ones of the bunch, because, well, we'll definitely save that for when we get to it, but I've noticed in some of these Let's Players do have some troubles with in here and there, but I digress though. There's actually another thing I'd like to point things out for this point, folks. Oh, speaking of Kind, there he is. So let's go ahead and hop onto him. Yeah, he's pretty much difficult to control with ice physics because, you know, since Iceberg was actually an ice level of any sorts, so naturally it makes it incredibly difficult to actually navigate on ice platforms every now and then. But I'm sure we can get away with it, don't worry. But even then, hopefully our Mars will not die too many times, which eventually it might do in the future worlds and onwards. So as you can see, we got ourselves a combination of the ice power-up in addition to the kind of fish. What he does is that he pretty much acts like very similar to how it does in the Leaf Shield from Mega Man 2, except the fact that in Mega Man 2's Leaf Shield, you can actually protect yourself, and then you can able to actually toss the leaves projectiles right back into those enemies / robot masters. And in this game in particular, it just actually acts like a protection of any sort. So even then though, that you can actually protect yourself when you become, you know, trying to be invulnerable to enemies and stuff like that. And sometimes you freeze his enemies too. So even then, it's a pretty recommendable copy ability, or the combination I should say, to able to... Oh no, I died, yep. I probably shouldn't see that coming, due to that bottomless pit is actually there. And plus, there's no way we can actually jump higher than that, so as a result, yeah, I got screwed over, so... Oops. But on the plus side though, we got ourselves the ice, copy ability back at least, by the forms of that penguin enemy. So anyway, yeah, these enemies do remind me of Omochals for some reason, because of the way that they look, or even especially noticeable with that propeller they got on top of their head. Anyway though, come on, let's see if I can get this. Yeah, that's a pretty rough shot. It's really hard to get all the way up to the top though. I think this is probably due to the timing aspect you have to deal with here. Anyways, level 4. I think this is where we ended up able to obtain the rainbow drop in this world. And as I mentioned earlier, this might be the hardest of the bunch because, well, first off, that to start things off with this level is that we're actually going to be fighting against with this little fireball mini fight. And as a result, that mountain, when you kill him, you need to be sure you need to obtain the fire copy ability alongside with, after you defeat that, you know, mini fight. We also got ourselves, Kind here. Now, what makes this part so difficult, as you can see, that, I've held the fact that the reason why I have to do a lot of jump cuts for this part, because, much like how it does in Kirby's Dream Land, Let's Play, is the fact that specifically on Extra Game, I have to use some save states before I'm able to actually just, get, like, successful attempts and everything. I know it's a little bit cheating here and there, but still, I just really cannot predict for myself for a perfection of any kind. But anyway, this part right there is probably the most annoying section because we have ourselves an auto-scrolling section, which, again, these are personally these are my least favorite, because if you fudged up at the very end, specifically, what makes this a little bit annoying compared to how it does in Super Mario Bros. 3, in the forms of the auto-scrolling section. If you manage to get to the very end, it won't be that much of a problem, but the screen is constantly scrolling in most of the time, and then as a result, if they still continuously going with the screen scrolling, you'll end up dying instantly as a screen crunch. So even then though, you do need to actually be very fast and be more accurate for the most part too. So anyways, you need to use the Kind and the fire copy ability at the same time, because you need to demolish that particular ice cubes down there. Now here's the most difficult part about this particular rainbow drop you're going to be obtaining, you're probably wondering. Of Granted, that's only because you need to discard out the fire ability, and then as a result, we need to get rid of these star blocks and able to actually continuously doing that. Let's just say, vice versa. So even then know that if you manage to do it really fast and quickly, then you would able to deal with it just fine. But believe me, it took me 3 or 5 attempts to able to actually do that successfully. Because if you manage to accidentally left your fire copy ability by accident, chances are you're gonna get screwed over and you have to redo the entire level again. Unless if you actually grab yourselves the spare, you know, fire copy ability as a result from that. So, naturally, that was definitely by far the most difficult rainbow drop you can get in the game, because as a result though, that you have to do a multitasking syndrome. Speaking of multitasking, until when it gets to World 6, that it also actually features up the multitasking system. But even then though, we'll get to that point once we get to World 6. So, naturally, we haven't got that far from it though. In fact, speaking of such though, is that we're pretty much at the halfway point in Kirby's Dream Land 2. I'm quite surprised about this because, again, due to the limitations of the handheld or anything like that. But anyways, come on, please give me some health. That's not what I need. Especially noticeable how the fact that we got ourselves our next boss fight coming up. And I believe we got ourselves the one and only Ice Dragon. Which, even then, that's what this boss's name was. And unfortunately, since I've got 1 unit of health left, this means is that I might end up dying until right about now. That was a bit underwhelming. But hopefully I might as well able to actually get away with it though, because obviously if I manage to able to do this boss within just 1 unit of health left, that just makes it incredibly impossible to do. So anyways, Ice Dragon is very simple if you know what you're doing. I found this boss fight to be a little bit more difficult than any other bosses throughout, because first off, the ice physics are still there. And secondly is the fact that as you can see these little icicle cones coming down from the ceiling, and every time when it cracks, it just gives you a hit, which even then though, that just gets really difficult and ridiculous. But anyway though, but yeah, you're gonna have to be very cautious and be careful with those attacks like this. Even especially noticeable, you don't want to let that get to you, because obviously if you're gonna get hit quite a few times, then you're probably gonna get screwed. Okay, looks like we're doing good so far. Okay, that's not too bad. Naturally, we've only got about 6 more, or actually 3 more hits actually, because if you manage to able to reflect the projectile back at him for about 3 times, it actually takes out 2 units of health from him. So that makes it pretty obvious what this little system goes. Okay, just 1 more hit and 1 hit point throughout. So I'm hoping that this won't be as nearly as like compared to how it does in Kirby's Adventure and Kirby's Dream Land 1 for the final bosses though anyway. Oh, I spoke too soon! Ah, shoot! Oh, as always, I always get screwed over by the forms of 1 health point, and the boss's health point is still 1 remaining. Jesus Christ, that's not even funny, man. Anyway, though, but even then, this is where it gets really, a little bit more treacherous, if you say so. But anyways, before we end things off on this point, we're gonna have to go back in here to the Iceberg to do a bonus chance, challenge. And, for this particular bonus chance might be a little bit easier, but you need to be very careful with this, because obviously, in this particular bonus challenge here, or the bonus chance I should say, obviously we need to still obtain those little, you know, mini stars. And after when you do that, then you have to do this exact same thing over and over again. So, but of course you do need to watch out for these little icicles coming down from the ceiling, because if you get hit by those icicles, it will actually decide to kick you out of the actual bonus chance game. Again, it might be a little bit easier, but it's just that you need to be right on with the pattern syndrome, and if you do that successfully, then obviously your challenges is complete. And there we go, folks, that concludes Iceberg. So now we're gonna have to end things off here, so join me next time on Let's Play Kirby's Dream Land 2 for the Game Boy. It's the fact that we're going to be moving on into the 5th world in this game. I believe this world is actually known as Red Canyon. So yeah, see you guys next time. Later, fellas.